I was wrong about Dragon Age Veilgaurd. I'm sorry, but if anyone was wrong about Dragon Age Veilgaurd, then you're not just retarded. You're mega retarded, okay? You have no hopes.
Look, I can admit when I'm wrong. I have humility. This is not going to be one of those times. I sent out a lot of very heavy-handed criticisms and some wild accusations for Dragon Age the Veilguard, but I didn't take the time to think about the fact that there might actually be some people out there that genuinely liked it.
And that's extremely saddening. Honestly, Dragon Age the Veilguard should be like a litmus test. And if you fail, you don't deserve oxygen because, yeah, that's how bad this is.
However, with this game getting any level of success, it's been used for all the wrong reasons. It was the exact ammunition that many in games media.
The only level of success that Dragon Age Veilguard has is the fact that people have come together to hate it this much. Okay? That's the only shred of success. Financial disaster, check. Woe garbage dumpster pile, check. The destruction of BioWare, check. Okay? Listen. There's not a lot here.
Media have been looking for. The only thing they haven't realized is that it's all blanks. Look, I took the time to play Dragon Age the Veilguard, time that I very much wish that I could get back, and I have some thoughts to share. A lot has happened since this game's release. A lot of things have been talked about. It is now being heralded as one of the front runners for the Golden Joysticks Game of the Year, likely even the Game of...
Oh god, you know what's the funniest part about that sentence? Someone in the comments actually said, yeah, at this rate they're gonna nominate Dragon Age for the best game ever of the year. My friend, you are a true visionary.
Awards as well. It's being praised like it's the second coming. It's being flung in the face of every single gamer that's out there as proof that their way is the right way. So let's shove it back. But before that,
if you cannot make someone believe what their eyes lay in front of them, then remove the eyes and tell them what they should see.
Today's sponsor. Browsing online without protection is like shouting your pride.
Oh, it's a VPN. It's shit.
Now, initially, I was not going to play Dragon Age the Veilguard. I had made my stance pretty clear that this just wasn't a game that I was interested in after watching the trailers. However, I felt that with the heavy-handed judgments that I levied...
Oh, come on. You must be interested in Dragon Age Veilguard. It is hilariously bad. And again, the saddest part is, honestly, yes, the combat is forgettable and kind of whatever, meh. But the game just needs... You needed so little to make the game at least playable. It is so sad, because you needed seriously so little to make it actually playable.
At this game, and how confused I was by media's overwhelming positivity towards it, that I needed to play this game before I speak on it any further. Call it journalistic integrity or what have you. I honestly just wanted to see if my thoughts were completely unfounded, and lo and behold, they weren't. Well, kind of. Now, I'll start off by saying I wasn't expecting this game to run so well. I had to fiddle with a couple of settings, but that's more of a limitation of my own hardware, not necessarily the game. Fidelity-wise, this game has to have some of the most breathtaking environments that I have seen this year outside of Black Myth Wukong.
Seriously? Okay.
Locations that you visit are highly...
That's sus. Because, well, there's two ways that you can honestly look at it. One, as a Dragon Age fan, in which case the choice of graphics is horrible, okay? And pretty much as far as I'm concerned, anyone claiming that they are a Dragon Age fan and saying, oh no, this choice of aesthetics is fine, is a liar, and they're not a fan of the Dragon Age series. But, yeah, the only way you can... It's... No, it's just new Fortnite. It's not dark at all. It's just gay.
Detailed, vibrant, and genuinely a joy to explore and walk around in. Now, I would have enjoyed these environments more if it didn't feel like I was being railroaded through this game at every given second, but I think that's something that just ties back to this franchise losing its identity as an RPG and evolving into an action game. Quests are in a mission structure. You finish a quest, it pops you back out at your base, another quest starts, and you go again. There is no effort to allow the player to gain any familiarity with this world and its locations. I have some odd 500 hours in Baldur's Gate 3. I know its maps like the back of my hand. I'm familiar with that game, not because of how long I've played Baldur's Gate 3, but it's how long Baldur's Gate kept you in place, how diverse those environments were, how they made use of them, how many different things there were to do, and how memorable the
Yeah, this is one thing we don't talk about at all in gaming, which is kind of strange because this is a real powerful thing. For example, World of Warcraft Classic, okay? You have a very huge association with every zone that you play in because you have just spent so much time in it. But then you go, for example, to retail World of Warcraft, and every zone is just the same fucking slop over and over again. It feels that it doesn't matter. Even when you go to the same zone that you once played in Classic, it just doesn't hit the same. There's just something. There is just something about level design and spending a certain amount of time in a location that is undescribable, but it has such a huge impact on your experience.
moments were in every location and interaction. I think this is an important part of any narrative driven game or RPG, and it's ultimately what makes me hate
An important part of any game is having more enemy variants than New World, okay? New World had 3. Congratulations, Dragon Age, you have like fucking 4-ish. But that doesn't exactly feel good anyway.
Dragon Age the Veilgaurd. You're meant to feel like you are stepping into another world and building relationships with its characters. The game's main goal is to get you invested in the places that you visit and the characters you're with. Otherwise, why would you care about what's going on in the story? The only way that a game can hold your attention without getting you invested in its world is if the story, gameplay, and characters are so compelling.
These loot piles are so bad, by the way. They are so fucking bad. Okay? And it's a pretty low effort Fugazi, honestly, to try and just make someone excited with, oh, there's 6 bags of coins of 5 instead of that being like 1 bag with an amount of coins that's like 300. Typically, you know what always does the trick for me, and I like it a lot more. And this was indicative of the, for example, old Fallout games, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3, and whatnot. It was situations where you opened some kind of container or whatnot, and it has way more of the big stuff in it. Okay? Way more, way more, not in the way, actually, not even the big stuff, but just way more stuff than usual. That was big. Not this scattered about type of situation where you just need to click a bunch of times and it doesn't feel impactful because you're just picking up 1 gold at a time. Those situations are not good. They can be sometimes good, but I think the real heavy hitters are the situations where you open some kind of, box that has a poop on it and you get something amazing. Those are the heavy hitters.
That it doesn't matter. And that's definitely not the case for Dragon Age the Veilguard. This has to be the most vapid, shallow, and eye-roll inducing narratives I have ever had the displeasure of playing through. The premise holds promise, stepping up to face Solus, an old ally gone rogue.
Dude, this is so shit, by the way. Look at him. They're not adding physics to the mask when he's moving the mouth. They're just actually stretching the mask when his mouth should move. That's so lazy.
Setting that could be rich with tension and betrayal, but just as quickly the potential is then snatched away and replaced for a couple cookie cutter villains who exist solely just to embody evil. Why are they evil? Because they crave power, and if that's not enough for you, they're tainted by the blight, so they're even more evil this time.
Oh no,
it's just
double
so hollow
evil.
for a game almost 10 years in development from a beloved franchise that has such rich history and lore. And the dialogue only digs a deeper grave.
Yeah, okay, that's my cum dumpster waifu, okay? Don't even look at her. Don't. She's the perfect elf cum dumpster, okay? Literally hips made to breed, okay? Face made to kind of love, I guess. And mouth, it does a lot of things. Sadly, it also talks, and when she opens her mouth, oh, you get kind of sad. But those lip movements, boys. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. I forgot what was the main point of what I was going for here. I'll figure it out sooner or later. Oh, right. The amount of bad choices that you have. I have already went off on this multiple times, but you don't actually have any real impact on what happens. And yeah, the best situation is like there is a situation laid out in front of you, and then you have to make a decision about it. And the decision can be like kind of good, bad, send him to the grave wardens, or whatever the fuck they have, okay? And it could be good, but the situations are explained in such a one-dimensional, sad way that it's impossible. For example, the very first big decision that you have: what happens to the village mayor of the blighted village? So first of all, there is no real setup that the mayor actually is the bad guy who should be punished because he sold his people out for money, which doesn't even fucking make sense why he has to do it, by the way. There's literally no reason because the gods can just brainwash you anyway, so why the fuck do they need the mayor to do anything? Plus, you see that the villagers are already corrupted and brainwashed anyway, so how the fuck is it his fault even to begin with? But no, they set up nothing that he is the bad guy, and then you find him and instantaneously all your companions just accuse him. You destroyed the village! And he's like, well, I kind of got mind controlled, and yeah, well, I couldn't actually do anything. They just threw me in. Now you're evil. And then you have to make a choice on zero setup and your the retarded companions just being stupid and blaming the guy for nothing, and the guy just doesn't make sense in the first place. These are the decisions that you have to make, and they're dumb. They're one-dimensional trash that could have been decent. You know, exploring the concept of is someone actually responsible for their decisions if they have been manipulated or mind controlled? Are they responsible for that? Well, who fucking knows? Okay? Maybe they got mind controlled, but what if they agreed to that anyway and they shouldn't have been mind controlled? You know, there's so many options, but Dragon Age Veilgaurd just fails at everything. Come, dumpster waifu.
Nearly every interaction feels painfully forced, all quips and awkward silences. Some characters like...
Look at how blatantly autistic she is. It's love from first sight.
Varric and Nev manage to deliver an occasional conversation that's worth savoring, but those moments are rare. For the most part, the script feels like it was written by a committee of socially anxious millennials, every character fumbling for some kind of identity without actually becoming a person. It's like I've said...
That strangely sounds like the trans thing. Wow.
Before, so many people today are focused on identities and they forget that they're writing characters. And that's really the problem with Veilgaurd, is that it just doesn't have any identity past its combat and just general gameplay loops. The world, the characters, none of it makes sense to me. It doesn't feel like it fits. It's crazy to look around and see that there's so many people that are talking about how this game isn't afraid to be what it is. I'm still asking what it is. It's a game that thinks it can win you over with flashy battles and shallow quips. Sure, the combat had me engaged for a while.
Not even flashy battles, yeah. They're like, again, you have the quintessential amount of enemies the same as New World. That's really bad because New World doesn't even have enemy types. And difficulty setting is just more damage sponginess, and that's kind of it. Yeah. Unless you're playing a mage in which case you are kind of enjoying the combat. Rogues are semi-enjoying the combat. Warriors are getting literally lubed up and inserted upon because reasons.
Well, it wasn't too bad. The general flow is entertaining enough, but once I'm just running through the same routine over and over, fighting the same enemies over and over without any sense of purpose or connection to this world, it becomes exhausting. About 8 hours in, I realized that I was just mindlessly repeating the same combos, the same abilities, for the exact same predictable results. I got to the point where I kept dying, not because I was being challenged, but because my mind had already checked out. By the 10th hour, I just shut the game off completely. Not out of frustration, but sheer apathy. Veilgaurd never gave me a reason to keep playing. After talking to a few others who actually liked the game,
That's sad. If you don't like Woke, you at least can actually play this and laugh about how ridiculously woke and stupid it is.
came to the realization that it's just the difference of tastes and expectations. Baldur's Gate 3 set the bar for me. They made believable characters that made sense in their setting. Every piece of music was memorable. Every character, story, relationship, and interaction had a purpose. The party dynamics in combat.
Wait, are these passives? Or are these skills? I really can't tell. It looks like they're passive.
Combination of skills and equipment, and the whole game tied everything together just so perfectly. Dragon Age has none of that. And while I didn't expect it to be the same, Dragon Age and BioWare are the ones that inspired some of the greatest games in this genre, and I would expect they would at least reach for it. From my perspective, this game is exactly what I expected it to be, an indifferent video game experience. Nothing memorable, highly consumable. It is as if this is...
I'd argue that there's a lot to be memorable about this.
Dragon Age the Veilguard, brought to you by the CW. That's where I got it wrong. I didn't think that people would enjoy this game. I didn't think the game would find an audience. And then I come to realize that sometimes people just don't really care about games that have in-depth, complex narratives or have these well-written characters. Sometimes they want to play something that's relatively shallow. And that's not a strike against the people.
That is a stupid take. This confuses and doesn't lay out any boundaries at all, okay? Yeah, sometimes people want to play something stupid and shallow and mindless. Congratulations, I'm currently playing Sifi. It's a literally watch number go up AFK game. 10 out of 10, by the way. And, you know, I can also play things like Soulstone Survivors, Vampire Survivors, and all of those things. Not exactly deep, not exactly a lot of dialogue, but you know what I will not what I will not play if I want to play something simple? A role-playing game that has shit dialogue even if it's simple. Okay? There's a distinction, okay? Yeah, people want to play simple games time to time because it's fun, it's relaxing, it can be a multitude of things depending on what you want currently in your life or whatever, but you will not pick a shitty role-playing game because it's simple. Dialogues do matter. People in very, very rare cases are going to pick games that have zero dialogues. Well, zero good dialogue, but it has a lot of dialogue, okay? People try to avoid role-playing games or games like that have shit dialogue. Unless they can completely skip it and the action is actually worth it. But that's rare.
People that enjoy the game, sometimes that's fun. I mean, I had a girlfriend that forced me to watch Gossip Girl. To my friends, I acted like I had a gun to my head, but in all reality, I was rooting for Blair and Chuck.
Pussy. If you like something, just say it. Oh, society's not gonna accept my opinion. I need to be right. I need to be Asmongold and figure out which way the wind blows and then make a statement or opinion about it. Fucking pussies. Pathetic.
I figured that this game would have mixed receptions. That's another thing that I got wrong. But what I didn't realize is that this game is so divisive that the people who saw and like what they saw got it.
Bro, listen. When I first found out about Starfield, it was only trailers. And I made the fucking fun out of those trailers, okay? I called them shit, and I called it the game is going to be an absolute pile of garbage because it's already clearly visible in the 0.3 seconds of in-game gameplay footage that Bethesda's showing that this game is going to be a slop fiesta. You know what happened? That was by the way when I had even less subs than now, and I don't have a lot of subs to begin with, boys. Those videos got destroyed. They had like a fucking negative. They had a 40% upvote. Did I give a shit? No. I continue making fun of that. And then Starfield came out, and what do you know? Everyone's like, "Ah, you're fucking right." Ah, yeah. Stick to your guns. Simple, okay?
And the people that didn't. It's kind of like a vegan restaurant. Like, people that eat meat typically aren't going to go there. It's filtering reviews by itself. So that's one of the reasons why we're not really seeing a really divided opinion on this game in reviews. Well, I mean, Metacritic sites, we'll get to that later. But none of this means that I don't still hold the exact same criticisms and beliefs that I had when I made my first video on this. Because the thing is that...
that's not a good thing to say there, Chief. That's actually a really, really fucking sad and stupid thing to say. Because if your admission is, oh, I thought that people are going to be split 50-50 on it, that means that you didn't think the game is fucking bad. Okay? Then you thought that certain aspects of the game are bad. Exactly like my review of Fallout, the Fallout TV series. Some parts are beautiful, for example, Lucy's storyline and everything. Some parts are just fucking atrocious. Everything except Lucy and the girl, honestly. But, you know, it's a 5 out of 10. Some parts egregiously bad, some parts egregiously good. It just is the way. But that opinion has not changed, because I made it after experiencing all of that. Now, you have an opinion that you said it's going to be 50-50 for whatever fucking reason, and now you're saying, well, my opinion has not changed, even though I have had multitudes of new information, and I'm even admitting to a certain degree I was wrong, but you're saying your opinion hasn't changed? That's fucking sad. That's fucking dumb. People change their opinions when new information is introduced. That's normal.
I believe that reviewers, professional reviewers, have a responsibility to critically review games. And with the way that this game got the red carpet treatment, how it's been touted, how it's been lauded, especially on Twitter, how it's now all of a sudden a Game of the Year candidate, none of that feels right. This isn't that game. But damn, do they want it to be? With years of controversies, forced messaging, and colossal failures in AAA came the rise of angry gamers. Journalists, reviewers, and legacy media outlets have been ignoring the elephant in the room and opting to either disregard or minimize any of the discussions about how games are being co-opted into identity politics and how players don't want to have anything to do with it. All of this has led to a massive decline in media credibility. I've spoke on this subject in the past, and I believe that there are some in game development as well as games media that now view players or specific factions of players as the opposition. As such, it's now created this feedback loop, an echo chamber, where developers feel vindicated.
Always have.
In releasing games that players are critical of, and the media either fully validates their poor decisions or gently pats them with a 7 out of 10. Players have often used sales or the success
Classic IGN, by the way.
Of a game to shove in the face of both developers and journalists. We've seen it with Baldur's Gate 3, Helldivers 2, Palworld, Black Myth Wukong, and more. Simply showing that these are the things that players care about. Baldur's Gate 3 was treated like it was an anomaly, impossible to recreate. Helldivers 2 left...
No, it wasn't treated as impossible to recreate. People, games journalists literally said, hey, they put effort into this game, and we can't ask that other companies do the same, okay? So Baldur's Gate is an exception, because they put effort into the game and tried to make it good. That is unironically exactly word for word what they pretty much said. Not exactly word for word, but the idea is 100% that.
Them speechless. Palworld was nothing but cope and seethe over the confusion as to why players ignored them.
Whoa, Palworld still has 20k active players? That's actually seriously good. Wow, I thought this would be dead already.
Them calling it a ripoff.
Well, not dead, but, you know, this is effectively probably the lowest that it can go, and it's pretty decent still, I guess.
Played it anyway. Black Myth Wukong, well, that was just Chinese players, and apparently they don't count, and the excuses continue to pile up. While some players
based Chinese opinions don't matter.
Have used these games as a battle won in a culture war, many, if not most, view these as victories of games that were just good games, not affirming some social or political belief, simply fun games with the absence of identity politics. I just don't think these people have come to the realization.
God, the itemization is just so bad here. It's insane. Look at this. These are the items. What does defense do? Honestly, no one knows. No one knows how much defense is gonna affect you in what way. Look at this. Max gold resistance. Circumstantial at best. Well, it's so bad. It's just so bad.
That in a lot of cases, they aren't fighting against the opposition. They're fighting against supporters who just are sick and tired of seeing the same social political messaging everywhere they go. And the last thing that they want to do is buy a product thinking it's a game, only to find out it's a soapbox in disguise. Either way, whether it's the exhausted consumers or genuine opposition, many in games media and game development are tired of taking losses, so it's all too predictable for them to put up a game on a pedestal when that game is viewed as an ally to their social causes. The fallout of Dragon Age: The Veilguard has done nothing but validate my concerns that the industry's coverage of this game is not genuine. While sure, some may have enjoyed it, it's getting more
Well, took you long enough to finally come to the obvious conclusion that games journalism for years has literally only survived because they actually, need game codes to be given to them. Listen, previously things were a little bit different. There was a time before the internet, and it was a dark time full of dangers and stuff like that. Sometimes your child went out in summer for a day, didn't return, and the parents didn't call the police because, hey, probably he's gonna be back. Okay? It happens. But now in the age of the internet, journalists had no longer any pulpit. Because previously, before the glory days of the internet, there was no way to get your information other than from, these games journals and games news and things like that. So they held a lot of pulpit. Because even if they said something bad about the game, at least you actually knew a game existed. Okay? You didn't have to go to a store that sells games and check them all out, and the good old days when you found a game, you looked at the back and there's like 3 pictures of what actually happens in game, and you need to figure fucking shit out. No. That's gone. That's when all of these publishers, journalism publishers had the pulpit because games needed them to survive. They needed them to make it big. The moment the internet started and other people brought you information, journalists lost everything, and their only advantage nowadays is being given a review code so they can tell you their opinions and give you gameplay early. And that's all a bunch of lies, because now games industry can just say, hey, you give us a good score, otherwise you're not getting this fucking code ever again. And they need to comply with that, otherwise they're not making any money, because the average journalistic opinion is worse than your average YouTube take.
Favorable treatment than it normally would because it's their sword in a culture war. Look at how they responded. Industry analysts rolling around in the mud, asking what's the response of the gamers now, seeing that the game reached an all-time concurrent player count of almost 90K on Steam. And
oh, look at that. It's Paul Tassi, the guy who lies about pretty much virtually everything nowadays. 10 out of 10. Advice for anti-Dragon Age Crusaders. You can just flip now. It's not woke, so it's a big win. And it's November the 4th. Stars Hot Girl. You make one. You can make a hot girl here? Don't lie to me, you little fucking shit. Stars Straight Wild Man. Straight White Male. You can make one. What a fucking great point. You're such a diva. Freedom to skip liberal plot lines. No, you actually don't have the freedom to skip these plot lines. Ally with Solus. President Trump metaphor to defeat evil. Everything is about Trump, huh? I mean, it makes sense.
Current player count of almost 90K on Steam. Antagonizing and using percentage inflation to make it seem as though the game is more popular than it actually is. Now, I'm not...
We talked about these numbers that are a lie. This 500% mark doesn't matter for shit. Because the game came out on Steam after its popularity waned by 50 times because it was years after. So this is bull.
As though the game is more popular than it actually is. Now, I'm not saying that 90K concurrent players on Steam isn't a strong start. However,
it's bad. It's very bad. Anyone who thinks otherwise for Veilgaurd, the game that probably should have had 300K players playing, is an idiot. Just saying.
With that said, for people to be out there waving it around and treating it like a massive success when we've seen other games over the years do the exact same thing or better, it makes it look like a drop in the bucket. Heck, we've had indie games like Enshrouded and Last Epoch drop to higher concurrent player counts with little to no marketing other than word of mouth. So What does that say about Dragon Age the Veilgaurd? And even with Veilgaurd's respectable start, seeing how much money AAA game studios and publishers have been spending on making games, especially Veilgaurd being an almost 10-year-long project, I'm not confident that this game is a financial success. All right, let's do some quick math. Keep in mind that the peak concurrent player count is just a fraction of what the game's sales are. That's just the amount of players that we're seeing that are playing the game at the exact same time. Palworld, for an example, broke over 2 million concurrent players but reported 25 million players in 1 month, giving it a rough multiplier of 12.5 times what it was at its peak. Black Myth Wukong showed...
Oh, we're going to talk about this. Yes, I have talked about this also. Current number of players multiplied by 10, peak number of players multiplied applied by 10. The error range is, anywhere from 5 plus 5 multiplied to minus 5 multiplied, but that's the best we can do. Around 10 and you're gonna be fine.
Showed similar numbers with over 20 million in sales. And Helldivers 2 hit over 450 concurrent players with 12 million in sales, giving it a multiplier that's closer to like 26.7.
That's insane.
Based on these patterns, we can estimate that Dragon Age the Veilguard, at its peak of 90k concurrent players, may have sold between 1.1 or 2.4 million copies. Average that around...
That's an insane estimate, considering he made this estimate based on the fact that we have Helldivers, which is a uniquely big success, considering how it's sold and how many people are playing. And then he averaged in the aberrant into the average, which is stupid. There is a reason, by the way, a lot of statisticians ignore the peak and bottom number, because those are aberrants.
We can estimate the Dragon Age the Veilguard, at its peak of 90k concurrent players, may have sold between 1.1 or 2.4 million copies. Average that around at about...
2.4 is unbelievable. Again, I don't know if they probably sold more than a million, but they're probably going to struggle for months to sell more than 1.5 million copies. And this is a game that needs, starting from 5, which is still, by the way, a financial disaster for BioWare, to probably 7 or 8 million copies sold to be considered profitable. That's not happening.
About 2 million, I guess. I have zero doubt that Dragon Age the Veilguard cost $200 million or more to make, seeing that it took 10 years to develop. They are still quite a bit shy of what they need to be able to break even, and 90% of those sales are coming from the first week of launch. That's pretty much the same for most games. While the media may think it's a smash hit, I'm not sure that EA's investors will think the exact same thing, and if the game simply turns a small profit, that's not enough. In the end, the industry's persistent disregard for genuine player sentiment is becoming impossible to ignore. These numbers speak for themselves. 90k concurrent players is great, but it's nothing compared to what we've seen from other games. Players are gravitating towards games that prioritize quality, entertainment, and escapism over ideological messaging. Yet, with Dragon Age the Veilguard, the media's inflated response and its praise seems less about the game's actual merits and more about positioning it as a cultural symbol more than anything else. This approach might satisfy certain narratives, but ultimately, it's a hollow victory. And that's the thing, when I'm talking about these games breaking, smashing through sales records and concurrent player numbers, it's about how these games can be financially successful, because that's important. That leads to these developers holding on to their jobs and also creating a better image of the intended audience that these games are for. It's not about social messaging, it's about the lack thereof being a factor in it. And Dragon Age, yeah, it can reach a respectable player count, likely held up by the fact that it's a long-standing franchise, but when you make a divisive game, you're going to divide your audience. Crazy concept, I know, but that's how this works, and I don't really think that this game is going to be financially viable enough for EA to see it as a worthwhile investment. Even if they make their money back and then a little bit, it's probably still not going to be enough for them to say, yeah, we need to make another one of these. We'll see. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case. And we have this echo chamber where we have games media, journalists, reviewers that are handing out these participation trophies in an otherwise hollow victory, and they don't realize the harm that they're doing to the industry or to these studios. You wonder why studios are closing. You wonder why there are all these different layoffs. Creative freedom is something that you have to earn in video game development. You can't just have it straight from the start. You have to keep in mind that if you want to stay in business, you're still...
Hey, what? You always have creative freedom. What? Does everything have like a gun pointed to your head when you start making a game? Creative freedom is something you definitely have to an extreme extent, by the way. That's why I don't always blame the CEOs, because the CEO is not making the inventory shit. The CEO is not making one character trans because fucking reasons. The CEO is not making the weapon types bad. The CEO is not doing any of these things. That's why I don't blame the CEOs for everything, because the developers don't have a gun pointed to their head. They actually have a surprising amount of leeway to make things the way that they want.
Selling a product. So you have to earn the right to be able to be creatively free, I guess. And that's where this discussion kind of gets muddied for me. I've already seen a lot of people that have thrown some pretty colorful language about me, calling me a grifter because of the fact that I used to cover Baldur's Gate 3 and how much I loved that game. And now here I am talking shit about Dragon Age the Veilgaurd. And
I don't think he's a grifter, by the way, if anyone's wondering. He's not. He's not a grifter. But every time I watch his videos, Legendary drops, by the way, if you did not know, it's like he says a lot of dumb shit that I just completely disagree to, and we can see blatantly that it's just not even remotely true. It's kind of funny, okay? And being positive about Baldur's Gate doesn't need to make you positive about anything else in life. Fuck, you can play Baldur's Gate 3 and then call every other game in the industry shit for the rest of eternity. That doesn't mean that you're a shill or whatever, okay? And being positive about Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't mean that you have to be positive about Dragon Age, because they're role-playing games. Clearly one is superior and the other one is shit trash. It is what it is, boys. Anyways, I'm getting tired of this. That was Legendary Drops, 10 out of 10. Bye!